Hello Year 12. So like I said in our last lesson together, just to make things a little bit quicker next week and to free up Wednesday's lesson, our final lesson of the year, to do something a little bit different, I am currently going to be filming the Act 5 Scene 2, the annotations for the rest of the scene. That means that we can then just move on to the last three really short final scenes in our lessons on Monday together, and then we've got that final lesson on Wednesday, just so we're not going to the bitter end. So when we had left off the other day, we had left Bosler and the Cardinal talking together. The Cardinal had suggested that he has a task that he wants Bosler to do for him in offer for payment. He was quite manipulatively suggesting that Ferdinand won't pay him in order to try and trick Bosler into accepting this job so that Bosler does get the money that he's owed. And yeah, that's where we'd left it here, offering the ward for the service. That conversation is then interrupted, and this is where we left it. Julia enters, that's who interrupts the conversation. She speaks to the Cardinal. Sir, will you come into supper? I'm busy, leave me. We see this a few times in this scene, that the Cardinal seems to have become quite weary of Julia. He seems to have tired of their affair. He's quite dismissive of her, quite blunt, quite rude. And in response to that, she seems to be turning her affections elsewhere. In an aside to herself here, she comments on Bosler. So what an excellent shape hath that fellow. She's talking about Bosler. I'm sure very unexpected to us that he suddenly seems to be the object of her lust. But of course, we do know that Julia is portrayed as very lustful, as almost sexually deviant. So perhaps to a Jacobean audience, it wouldn't be surprising that she would so quickly turn her eye and look at someone like Bosler in a lustful way. She then exits, having planted that seed in the mind of the audience that she kind of fancies Bosler. She's gone now. The Cardinal carries on speaking to Bosler. He now explains what it is that he wants Bosler to do, what this job is that he had for him. 'Tis thus Antonio lurks here in Milan, inquire him out and kill him. Quite self-explanatory. He wants Bosler to find Antonio and kill him. While he lives, our sister cannot marry, and I have thought of an excellent match for her. Do this and style me out thy advancement. He's continuing this deception that he doesn't know by saying that, oh, I needed to do this because actually I've thought of someone who would be a great person for the Duchess to marry, and that's why I need you to go kill Antonio. Bosler questions, but by what means shall I find him out? So how shall I find him? The Cardinal's suggestion is that he looks for Delio. So there is a gentleman called Delio here in the camp that hath been long approved his loyal friend. So he's like, find Delio, he's really loyal to Antonio. Set eye upon that fellow, follow him to mass, maybe Antonio, although he do account religion, but a school name for the fashion of the world, may accompany him. So he's saying, find Delio, follow him to church, to mass, because Antonio may accompany him, but kind of the embedded clause in the middle here suggesting that that should say Antonio, that Antonio is not a pious man. So criticising Antonio there, and saying like, oh, he just think it's just like something really petty and unimportant, something a bit fake perhaps, a fashion of the world. However, you might find him there, so that might be one way to go. He gives him other suggestions of how to find him, or else go and quiet out Delio's confessor and see if you can bribe him to reveal it. So Delio's priest, essentially. See if you can find Delio's priest and bribe him to reveal where he's been hiding Antonio. There are 1,000 ways. A man might find to trace him, and to know what fellow haunts the Jews for taking up great sums of money, for he's in want, or else go to the picture makers and learn who's brought her picture lately. Some of those may take. So he's suggesting all these different ways that he may possibly go about finding Antonio. Again, this common anti-Semitic trope that Jews are money lenders and greedy. So one of the suggestions is that go and find out, basically go and speak to the Jewish moneylenders and ask if they know where Antonio is, for he's sure in want. Cardinal suggesting that, Antonio must be desperate by now. Obviously, the cardinal has taken all his land and wealth off him. So that's one suggestion of how to find him. Or he suggests that Boesler could go to a portrait maker and find someone who has been requesting a painting of the Duchess. So suggesting another way he might find him. Boesler, well, I'll not freeze in the business, so act with speed, that idea we had before over here, where he wanted to act speedily, so he didn't have a chance to change his mind. So I'll not freeze in the business, I'll go quickly. I would see that wretched thing Antonio above all sights in the world. He is putting across this idea that he is eager to carry this out. We'll find out later on in the scene. That's not actually the case, but that's how he's coming across to the cardinal. Do and be happy. This fella doth breed basilisks in his eyes. He's nothing else but murder. So, the cardinal has exited there. So this is Boesler talking about the cardinal. Boesler can see through him. He describes how he's like a basilisk, so he's got murder in his eyes. I'm sure if you're familiar with Harry Potter, you know basilisks are the ones that kill you with a glance. Saying that the cardinal is like that all he has his eyes and mind set on is murder. Yet he seems to have not noticed he seems not to have notice of the Duchess's death. 'Tis his cunning. He knows that the cardinal is lying. It's just his cunning that's making it look like he doesn't have knowledge of the Duchess's death. Boesler knows the truth. I must follow his example. There cannot be a surer way to trace than that of an old fox. Then we have a really, I know I keep saying we have a really bizarre scene, but in comes Julia. So Julia comes back in, having not long ago come to the realisation that she kind of fancies Boesler. She enters holding a pistol, so quite an ominous and threatening entrance. Julia, so sir, you are well met. Boesler, how now? Julia, nay, the doors are fast enough. Now, sir, I will make you confess your treachery. So we have this very almost threatening entrance. She's pointing a pistol at him, acting as if she's going to force him to confess to some kind of crime. The treachery, he's like, what treachery? The treachery she's suggesting that he's guilty of is, yes, confess to me, which of my women 'twas you hired to put love powder into my drink. She's flirting with him. What we are also doing here is we are mixing two of the play's overall themes, the idea of lust and danger. We've had those two things intertwined before in the play. She's using this really dangerous scenario as a means of flirting with him, as if she's almost kind of like holding him up and threatening him, where really it's all just very banterous and flirtatious, or you must have put a love powder in my drink. Boesler seems a little uncertain at this point, but kind of goes along with it. Love powder? Yes, when I was at Malfi, why should I fall in love with such a face else? Could just be perceived as quite insulting, and like, why else would I fall in love with someone who looks like you? Or it could suggest that there is actually almost like a deeper attraction for Julia here, perhaps almost like an emotional attraction to him. Maybe she sees kind of the darkness and the melancholy within Boesler and kind of finds that quite appealing and quite dangerous in kind of like a bad boy kind of way. With this pursuit of Julia towards Boesler here as well, we have this idea of a woman pursuing a man. As we saw previously as well with the Duchess and Antonio, we know that was for reasons of status. This would be unexpected in the Jacobean era and against social conventions. In terms of Julia, it again highlights her immorality and the fact that she almost refuses actually to conform to Renaissance standards of morality, particularly for women. I've already suffered for thee so much pain. The only remedy to do me good is to kill my longing. So like, I've already suffered because I can't be with you. The only way to remedy that is to kill her longing. So quite lustfully coming on to Boesler here, kill her longing by being with her. Again, that mixing of lust and danger. Sure, your pistol holds nothing but perfumes or kissing comfits, excellent lady. He does flirt back with her, and we'll see in a second, he does tell the audience his reasons for that. You have a pretty way on it to discover your longing. Come, come, I'll disarm you and arm you thus. So he takes the pistol from her and flirtatiously holds her and embraces her instead. Yeah, this is wondrous strange. She responds with, compare thy form and my eyes together. You'll find my love no such great miracle. Now you'll say I am wanton. She's very overtly sexual. She's very open with her sexuality. Wantonness would be perceived as something really immoral and not acceptable behaviour for a woman in this time period. Yet she's kind of very open with it, almost owning that side of herself. This nice modesty in ladies is but a troublesome familiar that haunts them. So the comparison to a familiar, so kind of the animal or creature from the devil that follows around a witch, suggesting that it's almost as if its modesty is a burden to women. It haunts them, it just follows them around, it burdens them like a familiar. So suggesting that women do not want to be burdened by society's expectations of modesty. Boastler, you know me, I am a blunt soldier. Blunt referring to his manner of speech, so like basically like you know me, you know what I'm like, I speak my mind. The better, sure, there wants fire where there are no lively sparks of roughness. The lively sparks of roughness, this roughness in relation to boastler's bluntness, the fact he's a bit kind of rough around the edges. He's of lower status than her. Boastler, and I want compliment. Why ignorance in courtship cannot make you do amiss if you have a heart to do well. Ignorance in courtship, suggesting that Boastler doesn't really know how to flirt with women and doesn't really know kind of proper behaviours. This is something that actually does seem to appeal if we look at the roughness as well. Julia seems to find appeal in his rough demeanour, his lack of civility. She seems to quite like his kind of ruggedness. Possibly almost like fetishizing his status and his lower class. It seems like from her husband and from her lover, we know she's typically kind of spent time with higher ranking, higher status men. So it does kind of seem like that kind of rough and readiness about Boastler is something that does appeal to her. What she's also saying in these two lines here is that she values genuine feeling and finds it more important than flattering words. He then openly compliments her, you're very fair, feminine, beautiful in this sense. Nay, if you lay beauty to my charge, I must plead unguiltily. Basically saying like, oh no, I'm not pretty. Like if you say I'm beautiful, like I have to say that I'm not guilty of being beautiful. She's fishing for compliments. Boastler humours her with that and continues to compliment her. Your bright eyes carry a quiver of darts in them sharper than sunbeams. So like a really kind of over-the-top poetic compliment for her there. You will mar me with commendation, put yourself to the charge of courting me, whereas now I woo you. We have all this legal terminology here as part of this flirtation, so the idea of pleading unguiltily, the charge of courting me, and again, the idea of kind of like danger and punishments coming in with lust here as well. Whereas now I woo you, she's very forward, she's willing to woo him. Typically, that would be the kind of the male job in this time period. Once again, she is contradicting and subverting expectations. This line here is an aside, so he is now revealing his intentions about why he is taking part in this flirtation and leading her on in this way. I have it, I will work upon this creature. It's like I'm going to use her, basically. I'm going to work upon her, I'm going to play her, I'm going to see what I can get out of this. Let us grow most amorously familiar. Let us get to know each other in a romantic sense, is what he's saying to her there. So that's what he's going to do that in order to work upon her and to get what he can out of her. What I've put here is he's using Julia's lust for his gain. He very quickly brings up the idea of the cardinal. It seems like he's testing the subject. He seems to be wanting to use Julia to get information about the cardinal, so kind of dipping his toe in the water here, testing the subject. If the great cardinal now should see me thus, would he not count me as a villain? Julia's response, no, he might count me a wanton. this idea we've had before with Julia, the higher moral expectation for women. If the cardinal caught her and Bosler together, it wouldn't be Bosler that was criticised for being with her, it would be her, for her wantonness, her sexual promiscuity. That would be at blame here. Not lay a scruple of offence on you, for if I see and steal a diamond, the fault is not in the stone but in me, the thief, that purloins it. That for me is reminiscent of the Duchess in Act 1, Scene 1. If we remember her little joke about it's not the diamond that's been through the most hands, the most jeweler's hands, the most valuable. So again, this kind of comparison of a woman to a diamond. I am stood with you, so again, kind of being very forward with him. We that are great women of pleasure, so her talking about herself there, again, this is her overt sexuality. She's very happy to admit that she is a woman of pleasure, that she does enjoy being lustful and partaking in sexual activity. Used to cut off these uncertain wishes or unquiet longings in an instant, join the sweet delight. So this idea of instant gratification. She wants to cut off anything that's uncertain and just instantly get what she wants and instantly get her sweet delight. So this idea of instant gratification, it feels in this conversation that Julia's lust is insatiable. And the pretty excuse together. Have you been in the street under my chamber window? Even there I should have courted you. Possibly could be an interpretation here of the idea of status. So him being below her in the street, kind of under her window. Perhaps a metaphor for status. Her higher up than him, in her window. Him down below, courting her. Oh, you are an excellent lady. Bid me do somewhat for you presently to express I love you. There is a real desperation in Julia, and I actually feel very sorry for her, because it does seem that she just absolutely craves male approval. What she is saying to Bosler here is, tell me something I can do right now to express my love for you. She seems to just be willing to do anything and everything for the men in her life. It just feels very much like she hasn't been treated well, and this is how she expects to be treated by men. I think that's probably me just coming from my modern perspective of this, rather than more likely Webster's suggestion that she is just willing to just do anything for lust. But from a modern perspective, I do feel sorry for her. I will, and if you love me, fail not to effect it. So if you love me, make sure you do what I'm asking you to. The cardinal is growing wondrous melancholy. Demand the cause. Let him not put you off with feigned excuse. Discover the main ground on it. So he is using her to dig for information on the cardinal. He very openly tells her that this is what he wants her to do. The way of talking to her here, all these imperatives: demand the cause, let him know, discover the main ground of it. All these imperatives, this feels very controlling and manipulative. Sorry if it keeps getting annoying when I move my phone. He's taking complete advantage of her feelings towards him here. Why would you know this? So why would you know that it seems that the cardinal is growing melancholy? I've depended on him, and I hear that he's fallen in some disgrace with the emperor. So suggesting that, I've been hearing rumours that he's in disgrace, I depend on him. Isn't like suggesting like he has been in his service before. If he be like the mice that forsake falling houses, I should shift to other dependents. Feigning this idea of self-preservation, saying like, I just want you to know because I just want to save myself if he has been disgraced. Perhaps because he thinks that Julia will therefore want to protect him with her suddenly newfound feelings for him. She will. She says, you shall not follow the wars, I'll be your maintenance. She is going to protect him. Bosler, and I, your loyal servant, but I cannot leave my calling. He's feigning this idea of, I'm so conflicted, I'm so loyal. I can't leave my calling, I can't leave my position. I'm worried about how the cardinal's disgrace will affect me, but I can't leave. So trying to come across as more respectful than he really is. Julia's response, not leave an ungrateful general for the love of a sweet lady. You are like some that cannot sleep in feather beds, but must have blocks for pillows. She's suggesting that he is choosing to suffer by not leaving the general, as in Cardinal, sorry, if it turns out he has done some wrongdoing. So this manipulation here clearly very effective. Beausoleil, will you do this? Julia, cunningly. Beausoleil, tomorrow I'll expect the intelligence. So again, very commanding here. We have this role reversal for Beausoleil as well. He is now having someone spy for him. So kind of a real regaining of power here for Beausoleil. Oh, there's a note put here as well. With all this kind of where he's tricking her, manipulating her. Beausoleil is very skilled at reading people. He does know kind of what works on people. He knows how to use people's weaknesses to his advantage. It seems here that Julia's weakness is her lust, and he's using that to his advantage. The Duchess, sorry, not the Duchess, she's dead now. Julia, tomorrow, get you in my cabinet. So he's going to hide in the wardrobe. That's something we've seen throughout this play, isn't it? This kind of hiding and deception, and somebody's being kind of squirreled away in a cupboard listening to a conversation. You shall have it with you. Do not delay me, no more than I do you. I'm like one that is condemned. I have my pardon promised, but I would see it sealed. Again, this interweaving of lust and danger, because here she is comparing her lusty wait for Beausoleil and kind of the waiting to be with him after she's done something to show her love for him. She's comparing that to waiting for execution. Go get you in, so get in the cupboard. You shall see me wind my tongue about his heart like a skein of silk. So you'll see me trick him, you'll see me kind of use my words to entrap him. In comes, Beausoleil exits into the wardrobe. In comes Cardinal and some servants. Where are you here? He commands the servants to do this here. Let none upon your lives have conference with Prince Ferdinand unless I know it. He is clearly becoming increasingly concerned about Ferdinand. It seems that he's trying to disguise and hide the matter. He doesn't want anyone to speak to him. It seems to be fearing for his and their family's reputation, worried that Ferdinand will misspeak, which is what he admits to here after the servants have gone in this aside. In this distraction, he may reveal the murder. Guns my lingering consumption, I am weary of her and by any means would be quit of. These 3 lines here, he's talking about Julia. Again, this is where I do really feel sorry for her. He's comparing her to a lingering consumption. Consumption, like a chest condition like tuberculosis, that's lingering. He's comparing her to a disease that he can't shake off. Again, this idea of perhaps this is why Julia returned her attention to Beausoleil, because he is being so dismissive. He's weary of her, he's admitting it now. He wants to be quit of her. So that's perhaps why she's turned to Beausoleil. Shows possibly her dependency as well. Julia talks to him, how now, my lord, what ails you? There's an irony here, because he's just, in this aside, referred to her as a disease. So her asking what ails him is an ironic little statement there. Probably a little humorous nod for the audience there. Cardinal, nothing. Oh, you were much altered. Come, I must be your secretaries and like your secret keeper. That's where the etymology of secretary comes from. And remove this lead from your bosom, so I must hear your secret, this thing that's weighing you down. What's the matter? Cardinal, I may not tell you. Julia, are you so far in love with sorrow that you cannot part with part of it? Or you think, I cannot love your grace when you're sad, as you are merry? Or do you suspect that have been a secret to your heart these many winters cannot be the same unto your tongue? So this kind of encouraging him to confide here, suggesting that, because I've been your secret, you do not think that I can also hold other secrets of yours. All this section here is just a back and forwards of her trying to get him to confide and him. Oh, sorry, the fan's just blown a bit closed. Her trying to get him to confide and then him just not really having any of it. He's even distancing himself again within the conversation like he was here in his aside. Satisfy their longing, the only way to make thee keep my counsel is not to tell thee. So like the only way I know you'll keep my secret is if I don't tell you. So distancing himself, lack of trust. Continuing this idea of just this back and forwards again. Tell your echo this, or flatterers, that like echoes still report what they hear, though most imperfect and not me, for it that you be true unto yourself, I'll know. Cardinal, will you rack me? Julia, no judgment, draw it from you. It is an equal fault to tell no one's secrets and to all or none. Cardinal the first argues folly. Julia the last tyranny. This is where he seems to be kind of giving in a little bit. So the Cardinal, very well. Why imagine I have committed such some secret deed which I desire the world may never hear of. Pretty close to the truth, isn't it? So kind of making her imagine this scenario where he's committed some really awful deed that he doesn't want anyone to ever find out about. Possibly starting to feel some guilt here. Julia, therefore, may not I know it? You have concealed from me as great a sin. So this idea of him keeping her secret of the sin of their adultery. Again, this idea that she is the one who has done the most wrong. I know we discussed this in the lesson the other day. It's just not taken into account that the Cardinal has taken vows to God and he's gone against those vows. And, like, if anything, surely that's arguably worse. However, she is even herself portraying herself as the more sinful one. It's adultery, sir. Never was occasion for perfect trial of my constancy till now, sir, I beseech you. So she's like talking to us like this is a test of her trust. Cardinal, you'll repent it. So suggesting that whatever it is that he's going to tell her, we know it is, it's that he's responsible partly for the death of the Duchess, is something that she will regret and something that will be almost as a sin to her, something that she'll need to repent. Julia says never. Again, continuing the same idea, it hurries thee to ruin. So suggesting that even the knowledge of what he has done will be destructive and have moral implications. So that repenting, the ruin. I'll tell thee not, be well advised, and think what danger it is to receive a prince's secrets. So think how dangerous it is to know secrets from someone powerful. They that do had need to have their breasts hooped with adamant to contain them. Adamant is a material like carbon, so something really, really tough, really like a really, really strong material. So this image of kind of like a metal carbon hoop trapping around their chest to keep in the secrets. So this idea of kind of being restricted and restrained to physically to keep in the secrets. I pray thee, yet be satisfied, examine thine own frailty. 'Tis more easy to tie knots than unloose them. 'Tis a secret like a lingering poison, may chance lie spread in thy veins, and to kill thee 7 years hence. This concept of secrets as poisonous, that is again something we've seen earlier in the play. Julia, now you dally with me. Like, she thinks that he's kind of like, oh, just teasing her playing. It's not something really that dramatic. He very quickly, after all this kind of back and forth, being like, oh no, I can't tell you. He very quickly tells her now. So, no more, thou shalt know it. By my appointment, the great Duchess of Malfi and her 2 young children, 4 nights since, were strangled. Very blunt the way he's talking about this. I'm going to add that there. Feels quite unfeeling. Excuse my handwriting, I'm just trying to hold too many things here. Yeah. So yeah, blunt and feeling the way he just kind of very factually comes out with that. Julia, oh heavens, sir, what have you done? She seems genuinely shocked, and if you see here again, you've undone yourself. It lies not within me to conceal it. She genuinely seems shocked that the Cardinal was capable of this. Even though they were having an affair, it just seemed that she doesn't necessarily know his the extent of his evil. How now, how settles this? Think you your bosom will be a grave, dark and obscure enough for such a secret? This seems a little kind of mocking and taunting to me. He's already come out with it and told her, and is now essentially saying like, oh, do you think you can hide such a deep, dark secret? It feels almost like a little twisted, sadistic, like she's kind of taunting her here, with this secret that he's now burdened her with. You have undone yourself, sir. That's an idea, we've had that idea, haven't we, constantly with Ferdinand and the Duchess, kind of loss of morality. Cardinal, why? He doesn't seem to know. He should, he's a cardinal, or at least kind of was previously before he removed his religious robes to take on that military position. But yeah, seems kind of like unconcerned, uncaring, like just ignorant to what he's done. Julia, it lies not in me to conceal it. This could be interpreted in one way, but we'll see another interpretation on the next page as well when she speaks again. From both of these, you've undone yourself, it lies not in me to conceal it. Julia has been characterised as so sinful, so lustful, so sexually promiscuous all the way through. So it really does highlight the cardinal's depravity, that even by her standards, this is too much, what he's done here and what he's confessed to. Basically, it's not within me to be able to keep this secret because it's so terrible. There is also a literal meaning. Remember, there is someone else listening in this scene, and we'll see that in a second. Cardinal, no, come, I'll swear you do it upon this book. Julia, most religiously, he forces her and in a kind of controlling, forceful way, makes her kiss this book kind of out of a promise of that she'll keep secret, but there was an ulterior motive here. Now you shall never utter it, you're never going to be able to speak my secret. Thy curiosity hath undone thee. Thou art poisoned with that book, because I knew thou could not keep my counsel, I have bound thee to it by death. He's poisoned her. On the book that he forced her to kiss, there was poison. He places the blame for her own death on her. Your curiosity has undone you, like it's your own fault, you were too curious. He knew she couldn't keep the counsel, he didn't trust her. Ideas of tricks and deception, again, that we've seen throughout the play. Bosler then leaps out the wardrobe where he was hiding. For pity's sake, hold, he attempts to intervene. Ferdinand, Cardinal, Bosler, he's surprised, he did not expect to see him there. Julia, I forgive you this equal piece of justice you have done, for I've betrayed your counsel to that fellow. So talking to the Cardinal, pointing at Bosler, she sees her betrayal of him as equal to him murdering her. She's just been poisoned by him, but she's like, no, this is an equal piece of justice. I betrayed you, so like we're equal now. I know you tried to kill me, but we're equal because I did betray you. Possibly because I put here her twisted view of dependency. She kind of sees herself as like she should be so more loyal to him, so that's why she sees that as an equal crime or equal sin. He overheard it. That was the cause, I said. It lay not in me to conceal it. So perhaps regretting the betrayal. Like I said before, there's the literal meaning of why she said, I can't conceal your secret. She knows there's someone else that can overhear it. Bosler, O foolish woman, could not thou have poisoned him? Like, are you so foolish? Couldn't you have poisoned him back? Julia herself says 'tis weakness. Even till her very end, she's pitiful. She's being called foolish by this man that she apparently like super fancies, really in love with. She's describing her inner weakness. 'Tis weakness too much to think what should have been done. I go, I know not whither. I go, I know not whither. She doesn't know her eternal fate. She dies at this moment in the play here. So when another character that we've lost at this point, she doesn't know which way she's going to go. She doesn't know if she has been sinful enough to go to hell. She doesn't know if she's been moral enough to go to heaven. Very quickly, it just goes unnoticed. Cardinal speaks straight to Bosler. Wherefore comest thou hither? So why did you come here? Bosler, that I might find a great man like yourself not out of his wits as the Lord Ferdinand to remember my service. I came here for payment. I came here to remember what I've done and hope that somebody like yourself, who isn't out of his mind like Ferdinand is, would remember what I've done and give me what I'm owed. Cardinal's response here is quite reminiscent of Ferdinand. I'll have thee hewed in pieces, that kind of threatening, gruesome, visceral language that we've seen typically of Ferdinand. Bosler, make not yourself such a promise of that life which is not yours to dispose of. A little bit ambiguous here of who Bosler does think his life is to dispose of. Possibly he thinks that Ferdinand might kill him, himself. God, kind of suggesting that maybe by killing him, Cardinal's playing God. It's ambiguous at this point. But either way, he doesn't think that his life should be at the disposal of the Cardinal. Cardinal, who played thee here? So who placed thee here? So like who put you in the cupboard listening to me? Her lust. It's not even Julia that he's blaming. It's literally her female lust. It's like her female sexuality to blame here, as she intended. Very well, now you know me for your fellow murderer. So now you know the truth. I also played a part in the Duchess's murder. The Cardinal is suggesting equal blame here. Again, that's debatable, isn't it? I think we've said that before in lesson. Bosler was carrying out duty. He was following his duty to Ferdinand. There's a grey area of morality here. It was the Cardinal and Ferdinand's doing. It was their bidding. Moral questions here. Are they equal? Cardinal seems to think so. Wherefore should you lay fair marble colours upon your rotten purposes to me? So this idea of why should you give me beautiful, rich rewards for your rotten purposes, for evil. So again, this idea we've had before, this idea of being rewarded for evil. People who do wrongdoing gaining more reward than those who don't. Unless you imitate some that do plot great treasons, and when they've done it, go hide themselves in the graves of those who were actors in it. So several words here alluding to deception: imitate, hide, actors. Cardinal, no more, there is a fortune attends thee, so there is a fortune waiting for you. Bosler is mistrusting at this point. Shall I go suit a fortune any longer? 'Tis the fool's pilgrimage. He thinks he's kind of leaving his fortune that he's going to get in the hands of fortune. This idea of fate and destiny. It's like, should I wait for destiny any longer? It's a fool's errand. I'll be foolish to wait for destiny to ever get me paid. Cardinal, I have honours in store for thee. So he's still trying to convince him that he will reward Bosler. Bosler plays on the double meaning of honour. So honour isn't like the virtue of being honourable, and then honours is in wealth and status. There are many ways that to conduct seeming honour, and some of them very dirty ones. So again, this idea of ill-gotten gains that we've had quite frequently. Throw to the devil thy melancholy. The fire burns well. What need we keep a stirring of it and make a greater smother? He's encouraging here Bosler to drop this melancholic air, this act of being the malcontent. And I just come and stop it, Bosler. Stop being pessimistic. Just trust me. Thou will kill Antonio. So returning to that request that he had for him, Bosler says yes. Cardinal then turns his attention to the fact that Julia's body is just there next to them. Take up that body. And again, we have that body down here. Really, the repetition in particular showing how detached and dehumanised Julia is from the Cardinal at this point. Complete lack of care from the Cardinal. Bosler's line here, I think I shall shortly grow the common beer for churchyards. A bier is something that, almost like a cart, I suppose is the best comparison, that a coffin would stand on. So he's saying I'm almost becoming a cart for the churchyard. He's accustomed to murder. He's had to kind of dispose of bodies recently himself. So the metaphor they're suggesting that some he is now like the cart carrying the bodies to the churchyard. I will allow thee some dozen attendants to aid thee in the murder. Oh, by no means physicians that apply horse leeches to any rank swelling, used to cut off their tails, that the blood may run through them faster. Let me have no train when I go to shed blood, lest it make me a greater when I ride to the gallows. He is saying that he wants to act alone. He doesn't trust others. We've got a couple of moments here where perhaps the audience might be starting to doubt Bosler, and is he really going to follow the Cardinal's orders? Is he really going to be loyal to the Cardinal? The part here where he keeps coming back to this idea of, I'm just going to blur it, sorry. Keeps coming back to this idea of ill-gotten gains. He does seem weary of the life of being the person who is just at everyone's beck and call, committing ill deeds for them. So here possibly the audience is doubting. Here the fact that he's no, I'll go alone, I don't want anyone else to help me. Again, possibly an element of audience doubt there. Does he want to act alone because he's not really going to follow the orders, perhaps? Is it just that he doesn't trust others? Cardinal, come to me after midnight to help remove that body. Again, Julia, to her own lodging. I'll give out that she died of the plague, till breed the less inquiry after her death. Bosler, where's Castruccio, her husband? Cardinal, he's rode off to Naples to take possession of Antonio's citadel. Remember, that's the one that the Cardinal had bestowed upon Julia. Believe me, you have done a very happy turn. So kind of saying like actually Castruccio has done quite well out of this, even though he's lost his wife. Cardinal, fail not to come. This is the master key of our lodgings, and by that you may conceive what trust I plant in you. So in order to show Boesler that he trusts him, he has given them the master key to the lodgings. Parallels here to when Boesler procured a key for Ferdinand. Possibly a suggestion of rising status here, because again, like now the shoe's on the other foot, it's not Boesler getting the key for someone else, it's the Cardinal giving the key to Boesler. Boesler, you shall find me ready. Here the Cardinal exits. O poor Antonio, though nothing to be so needful for thy estate is pity, yet I must find nothing so dangerous. Boesler is pitying Antonio here, poor Antonio. I must look to my footing. In such slippery ice pavements men had need to be frost-nailed well, they may break their necks else. The precedents here for me. He knows he's treading a dangerous path. He knows he needs to be careful with these metaphorical comparisons to like walking on slippy ice. How this man bears up in blood seems fearless. White as well, security some men call the suburbs of hell, only a dead wall between. Well, good Antonio, I'll seek thee out, and all my care shall be put thee into safety from the reach of those cruel biters that have got some of thy blood already. Thy blood is in his wife and his children. Here we go. Here is Boesler's real reason for agreeing to do this. He's not going to kill Antonio. He wants to protect him. I'll take all my care to put thee into safety. To protect him from the cruel biters, Ferdinand and the Cardinal. Biters, if we possibly Ferdinand, wolf thing, that have got some of thy blood already. So he's going to keep him safe from those who have already hurt his family. This is possibly Boesler's guilt over his role in helping Ferdinand and the Cardinal kill Duchess and her children. It may be I'll join with thee in a most just revenge, like we might plot together. So this idea of actually they might work together for revenge. Just because someone handed, I'm not going to write that, but yeah, it might be that we can work together, plot revenge. The week's time is strong enough that strikes with the sword of justice. Still he thinks the Duchess haunts me. There, 'tis nothing but my melancholy. So we have this moment where he momentarily thinks he can see the ghost of the Duchess haunting him, but then he's like, no, it's just my sadness. It's just like this, my deep melancholy that I'm feeling. Momentarily, it feels quite reminiscent of Ferdinand when he was witnessing spectres earlier in the play. However, Ferdinand isn't like Boesler. Boesler isn't like Boesland. That's a new name. Boesler isn't like Ferdinand. He quickly returns to rationality. He quickly realizes that he couldn't possibly be seeing a ghost, kind of like jolting himself back to rationality. O penitence, let me truly taste thy cup that throws men down, only to raise them up. So he's hoping to make up for his errors. He's hoping to taste this idea of penitence, then to be raised up to try and make amends for what he's done. There we go. If you have any questions about any of that, please do let me know. Fab. See you on Monday. Bye. Thank you. Have a great weekend.